China's property sector is entering a very troubling phase as reported in the Wall Street Journal. And that's something that I want to cover in this video. And so guys, as you smash that like button, let me run that intro. What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now, something that we've covered extensively on this channel is the Chinese property sector and how it's not the same as a property sector in other parts of the world. And if you guys are not familiar with the Chinese property sector, I built or made a somewhat of a primer video series, which is a 4-part video series that I'll link at the end of this video. But some of the risks that were highlighted in that video series way back when I created it are starting to materialize now. And so this is what I mean. So as reported in the Wall Street Journal, it looks like demand is waning as supply hits the market for more or new units, mostly apartments. And the problem here is that, of course, demand is going to wane, especially if you have a lack of confidence in the economy. And as the global economy continues to slow down, I think this sort of situation will speed up. But what exactly is happening? Well, you can see that post lockdowns, you had a curb in the home purchasing demand during the lockdowns, and post-lockdown you had a little bit of pent-up demand that was released. But now notice that despite that brief uptick in the beginning of 2023, sales are now starting to fall in major cities, and prices have been dropping in a majority of the Chinese markets. And so this is very troubling for the industry as a whole. Now, is it a short-term thing? Is it a long-term thing? We don't know. My suspicion is that this will be longer term than people originally think, unless the global economy recovers quickly, which I don't think is going to happen. And the article goes on to say that adding to that concern is that more and more people than usual are putting their apartments up for sale, pushing new listings to multi-year high. And so you got more supply, you're eventually going to get lower pricing. And so in 13 major cities, including Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, and Hangzhou, sorry, I can't pronounce that properly, the number of listings for existing homes has grown by 25% in May from last December, which is absolutely insane. Part of that is pent-up demand for selling your condo as well. And so you would think that the buyers and sellers would offset, but I guess not. To some extent, the increase is a sign that China's economy is normalizing after more than 2 years of pandemic controls. And that's what I would think initially, but it was just insane how quickly the steep drop-off was. And so, the risk right now is that if too many homeowners try to unload properties at the same time, it could add to the oversupply, which could put a wave of downward pressure on home prices, which of course would undermine the confidence in the economy. Now, I would suspect, and I think the word that they're using is correct, the word fragile. I think that there isn't a whole lot of confidence right now. I think people are a little bit weary, a little bit afraid of what could potentially come down the pipe as the global economy continues to slow down. Now, local developers in China have taken some steps to put a floor under prices for the past year. And so what they've done is they've banned developers from offering steep discounts. And now an interesting thing is emerging where you have a bit of a tug of war between buyers who are expecting prices to fall more and sellers who are refusing to discount. I think ultimately the buyers win. But we'll see how this plays out. And now adding to the problem is a population issue as well. So you can see China's top 4 real estate markets, Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou, all recorded population declines in 2022 for the first time in decades. That's something that we did talk about on this channel, and that was partly because non-native people left, and there were demographic challenges. But like the other thing that they didn't mention in this article is that there were a lot of people who were not from these cities. I think they might have captured that in this word. They may not have, but there was a lot of people who were from smaller cities that came to these larger cities to work, and once the work dried up, they left these cities and they haven't come back. And so that's why the population hasn't come back to where it was pre-COVID. And what's interesting is that the month-over-month decline in average prices for existing homes in 100 major cities have accelerated since February. So this is a challenging trend because it's accelerating. So it's very scary right now if you're a potential buyer in the Chinese real estate market, if I was a buyer and I see this trend of home prices declining month over month, I'd probably wait it out too and see if I can get a better deal. So the real question is, what is the government of China doing? Well, they've cut 2 key lending rates. I don't think that this would be enough to spur people to buy, but it could create a little bit of demand in the country. And this is an interesting point. So before, China had this policy where, it was dictated by the saying that homes are for living, not for speculating, because they felt as though people were speculating on homes. And so what ended up happening was they created this policy where you can only have one home. And so now Beijing is considering plans to scrap purchase restrictions on second homes in China's smaller cities as a way to boost the property market. Currently, buyers in many cities are prohibited from buying more than one property, a policy intended to prevent speculation. But here's the thing. Do you think that this will bring back speculators? If the price of these properties are going down month over month, it would almost mean that the speculators would want to wait until the price is stabilized somewhat. So I don't know how much this policy is going to help the property market overall. And ultimately, I just don't think you have a solution, because ultimately you're going to have to keep bringing on more and more supply as you try and sell more and more land leases, because the local governments cannot tax property at the moment, or they are not taxing property at the moment. So there's no other way that they can generate tax revenues. And so you have this big, house of cards building right now, and no real solution has been proposed. And so if you guys are wondering what I'm talking about, take a look at the 4-part property series that I released on the Chinese property market, which you can actually get to right here.